Hello and welcome to the Passion Driven Pioneers interview series. I'm your host, John Channon, and today I'm joined by Matt Carlson, who is the CEO of M Carlson Painting. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
You are very welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so would you mind kicking us off with just a brief background as to who you are, what you do, and the business that you're in?
I would love to. My name is Matt Carlson. I am the owner of M Carlson Painting. In the title, we do painting. We do residential repaints. We do new construction. We do remodeling. We also do commercial interior and exterior painting. And we also have a contractor division that we do where we work with our designers, remodelers, builders, and stuff like that. Our newest service is wall covering and wallpaper installation, which has been a lot of fun to learn and kind of tackle that on because there's not a lot of people doing it. So um, that's it.
Cool. So I noticed you actually got a degree in kinesiology, I believe, way back when.
I never finished college. I
Okay.
I dropped out my senior year, but my major was kinesiology. I loved it. Up until that point, I'd started the painting business in the summertime with some buddies. I was in school full time. University of Minnesota was my fourth or fifth college I'd been to, and I'd worked at a bar throughout my college career. And right before my senior year, I got a phone call that I was no longer employed at the bar, and that the past 4 years, they thanked me for my hard work and my commitment, but they no longer needed me. And at that point, I realized I was never going to work for anyone again. That really bothered me enough to pack up my bag from biomechanics and leave and never look back. And so the painting wasn't really something I was ever super passionate about, but we had kind of developed a little business and had a trailer and some sprayers and ladders like most guys, and I was able to find the work, and I never stopped looking back since 2001.
So talk about those first few years in business, right? What was that like getting a business up and going in a kind of a bit of a different area than what you'd been doing in the past?
Uh, it was so long ago. It's hard to remember because our business has taken so many different turns and shapes, but I do remember it being extremely stressful. I mean, I had just gotten married, no kids, luckily enough. But now I was reliant on, I'd been working in this bar forever. I had the best shifts. It was just like I could guarantee that money every week, to where now I was 100% commission. I had to go out, and we would literally we wouldn't knock on doors, but we would hang out flyers. But I'd always been in sales, some retail stuff like that. So I wasn't afraid to ask for the work. But we went through the yellow pages and called on builders and everything else. And the apartment complex that we moved into was brand new. And somehow it had come up that I did painting. And so we ended up doing the apartment turn painting for this building. And there's nothing wrong with apartment painting, but I knew it was something I didn't want to do forever, but it was guaranteed work every month. And so we started off doing apartment painting. We've gotten hooked up with an insurance company doing restoration work. We would flyer for exterior repaints, and something else that we did. But we never stopped hustling. I mean, we worked, and I was fortunate enough to partner up with the guy that was a phenomenal worker. Didn't have the most social skills, so it kind of worked out that I would use most of the sales and the estimating and stuff like that, and he was able to do the work behind that. So that was good, but just going out there and doing good work and showing up and doing stuff. Plus, we worked in an area that I've grown up my entire life, so it wasn't a new culture, it wasn't a new demographic, it wasn't anything out of my comfort zone. It's a pretty affluent area where we are, and being a local kid here, that really helped out too. And unfortunately, the trades bar has been so low that even 20 plus years later, people are still thankful that we call people back, or I have someone at the office actually answer the phone. And when we say we're going to be there at a 2 o'clock appointment, we're there 10 minutes early. Just basic customer service stuff where I think a lot of the trades that gets overlooked because guys are so worried about the actual product, the skill, the craft, technical piece. That's where they focus on, and everything else kind of gets left behind. Where I didn't want to paint my entire life after I got into it. I mean, it's hard work. It's very satisfactory. You know, it's almost instant gratification. You can see it, but I also knew that it wasn't something I wanted to do forever. So I was always trying to figure out how I could work myself out of that position. But the first 2, 3, 15 years, it's a grind. I mean, it's even now, 20 plus years later, like, has it gotten better? Yes. It's still a lot of work. Every day there's a lot of work. But the first couple years were extremely terrifying just because when the winter came around, you know, there's no work. So not to say that there isn't work, but we just hadn't had enough of a clientele base, enough referrals and stuff like that to stay busy. But as the years went on and the weeks went on and stuff like that, the seasons, like, we just made sure that we kept doing good work and we stood behind our work. We gave people fair prices. I was always available. We were always accountable, which I think helped a lot too, where it's like, even if we weren't part of the problem, we were part of the solution. And I think that gets overlooked a lot lately, where people just think, well, hey, it's not my problem, it's not my fault. Where I'm just a firm believer that we're problem solvers. That's what we are. And the main problem that we solve is people don't like the color of their house, or their product might be failing. So it's a very, I don't want to say demean it in any way, but it's not a very big problem we are solving. We're not saving lives. We're not doing anything that is making the world a better place every day, but people have a need and we're there to do it for them.
Well, and I would say that your work gets seen every day by the
Yeah.
people that you do the work for, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, you might not be saving lives, but somebody's going to look at that every day and say, Matt did a great job, right?
Yeah. And I mean, the bigger part is that now it, because we are painting and there's a demand for it, that we're able to provide, you know, a great lifestyle for our painters and our sales guys and our project managers and our office staff and stuff like that. So that's been the cool part, to see it grow and stuff like that, versus when I was up painting away, it was like, it provided me a very good life. But it wasn't something that I could stay, or I couldn't scale, just because there's so many parts to running a business that being just the technician, that's such a small fraction of what actually running a business is, or owning a business, I should say.
Yeah. You mentioned, you brought it up earlier, a little bit about the work-life balance. Can you talk a little bit about what you do to maintain your work-life balance?
There is no work-life balance. And that's a decision that each person has to make. What are you willing to sacrifice for your goals? What is your why? I mean, a lot of time, I mean, if your why is to have a work-life balance, then you can definitely make it happen. But I would say, until you can get yourself out of the business and not everything running through you, and it doesn't matter what business it is, you're going to have a very hard time with the work-life balance, because everything has to run through you, which means you're always on. Now, my 24th year, I've gotten to that point where I've got a great work-life balance. I can choose how much I want to work. Now it's more of a choice, versus the last 20 some years. It wasn't a choice. It's in a sense, it's a prison that you're in, because if you don't go out and sell, if you don't go out and collect the check, if you don't go out and find the crews, if you don't go out and do all those things, like, the business just stops. So once you can get past that point, it's a much better, much easier lifestyle to kind of absorb. But owning your own business, you are tied to that business. There's very little work-life balance. I mean, people think by owning their own business, they have all the time and freedom. No, not even. If you want that, go be an employee.
Yeah. No, that sounds about right. So you mentioned something earlier about you know, you guys have gotten into wall coverings recently.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that you do to stay either adaptable or remain innovative in your space?
Well, I'm trying to look forward now, and that's been the cool part of the business evolving. But to get to this point, it was miserable and horrible and stressful. And I mean, there's many days I wanted to quit, just because it never seemed like it was going to get any better. you're on survival mode for the most part of your career. And so it's like, you're just reacting to whatever. You're hoping that phone rings. You try to be more proactive in finding work, but there's always these problems that come up. And so up until 2020, we were just basically running on referrals, repeat business and stuff like that. And it did pretty well, but we weren't doing anything different than anyone else. We weren't providing a different service. The services we were providing were better than anyone else. I know that. I'm not afraid to admit that. We take much better care of our painters. We set the expectations higher. So we knew the only thing that differentiated us from anyone else is that we just provided a better service. I don't think the painters were any better than anyone else. Our warranty, the warranty is just like the movie Tommy Boy. Doesn't mean anything. So sticking around, people like that I'd been in business for a long time. And so that was kind of able. So year after year, we started saying, okay, hey, what are the things now that we can offer? And so we brought in some carpenters. So now we're able to do the carpentry work, but it's nothing different than a handful of other painting contractors out there. We tried to overservice too many different markets and had to scale back just because doing a commercial project is completely different than doing a residential project. And it took me 24 years to figure that out. So now we have dedicated divisions to each of those. But then we knew in 2020, it was the labor shortage, but it wasn't a labor shortage. It was a shortage of business owners that knew how to put this together. So once we figured that piece out and we were able to keep up with the demand and actually be ahead of it, that's when everything changed. So we were able to go through all our work. Instead of being a painting contractor, we were now a marketing company. Then we could go out in the market and look to see what the needs for people were. And for the past couple of years, it's just been, do you have people that can do this work? Can you get to these jobs? Can you put together a proposal that everyone can understand? Can you stand behind your work? So we were able to scale very quickly without losing quality, and with being able to kind of figure out different avenues. And that's where the wallpaper came in, is that it's never gone away. It's been there since I started in late 90s. And it wasn't until we opened up the Utah and Indianapolis market that we couldn't compete in these other markets, because we were taking our business model from here and trying to tap into new markets, and we were pricing ourselves out of everything. But the wall covering, because it's usually a higher end clientele, it's usually you're working with designers, people are willing to pay more for it. We knew if we could learn the wallpaper, then we would get these paint jobs, and it's been a game changer for us. And so now we're offering wall finishing. We're going to start offering higher end finishes with a product called Fine Paints of Europe. We've opened up a remodeling design build company as far as those pieces kind of come together. I mean, I don't like the term one-stop shop. If you're going to do anything, do it well. Try to be the best at it. I mean, you don't want to say, hey, we do all these different things, but if you break it down simply of just saying, hey, I just want to provide the best service for whatever we're doing, it makes it a little bit easier to do. But once we knew we could replicate the residential repaint division, 300 jobs a year, 500 jobs a year, now we're up over 1,000 jobs a year. If we can keep that consistency, learn from it, we can take that business model anywhere.
Well, that's really good. So let's change the subject a little bit, and let's look at the future. So would you mind offering us just a glimpse into your future plans and goals that you have for your business?
Oof. Well, there's some things I'm not allowed to share that I got to keep close to my chest, but we're still developing the business. We've grown 30% for the past 4 years every year. With that being said, we're trying to keep the consistency, but diverse a little bit more into spend a little more time with the commercial division and the contractor division, because those are much easier to scale versus the residential. You're not dealing with relationships with the residential. You might paint someone's house and never work for them again. So it's kind of a strange business model. So you have to work really, really hard to capture new customers. And we just always, and I just knew from the beginning, if you just do a good job and treat people well, they're probably going to refer you, and that gets you so far. So we're really making sure that our consistency is there. We like winning these awards of best painting contractor for the third year in a row. We love our Google reviews, so it's like I would say that's our biggest goal for the next year or two, is just to maintain that customer service, that quality of work. We've already gone national. We'd like to open up a couple more outposts, is what we call them, but we still need to figure out how we can do it better in the 2 states we're working in right now, because we're nowhere close to what we do in Minnesota. And if we don't get those other ones there, it's not worth it to bring our business to another state when other people are probably doing it better there than we are.
Good. Well, I appreciate you sharing those future views with us. So, recognizing that this show is targeted towards people who may be in the process of starting up a business, think about it, or in their first couple of years, do you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom you'd like to share with our audience today?
What's the saying? Burn the bridge, burn the boats. If you're going to go into being an entrepreneur, you have to give it everything you got. And don't give up, because the harder it is, the better it turns out. And I think it's really easy for people to start to second guess themselves and fold because things get tough. They're going to get tough no matter what. Find your why, why you're doing this. That seems to be something to kind of fall back on. If it's your family, if it's your spirituality, if it's your upbringing, I know those things, like, you've got to find the motivation every day to get up and do it, because it's not easy. It's not. If it was easy, everyone would do it. It's the best decision. I preach it to everyone. If you own your own business, that's great. I mean, there's something really, truly rewarding about it, but it's not easy. And so find something that you actually enjoy doing, that you're going to spend most of your time, because that's it. I mean, and there's no shortcuts. You're going to make mistakes. So try to learn from your mistakes. Try to surround yourself with people that are better, smarter than you, which usually they end up costing more money. But find yourself a good business coach. Find yourself someone that that's in the area that you are in, that you look up to. I mean, ask people. That's the thing, is I think people are so afraid to ask for help, or so afraid to say they don't know what they're doing. And that's another thing. No one knows what they're doing. Everyone is making this stuff up every day. That is the most brutal, honest truth there's out there. These people that write these books, all these people that go out there, these influencers, these people that do all these shows that talk about how great they are. If you need to tell people how great you are, you're not very good. So don't be afraid to ask for help. I feel that it's the duty of people that have made it to turn around and help the next person. So if you don't find that person, don't give up. I mean, it's a numbers game. You knock on 10 doors, you might get 10 doors slammed in your face. You might knock on 10 doors, and you might have 10 doors open for you. So you can't ever lose faith. You can, if you get knocked down, pick yourself up. And every time you do get knocked down, pick yourself up and leave the pieces on the ground that aren't working for you, and find new ones.
Oh, that's great. So thank you so much for your time today, Matt.
You're welcome.
It was great meeting you and learning more about your entrepreneurial journey. And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.